Everyone, welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Tom Levine, and today we're going to be going over something kind of interesting. We're going to be going over Windows 10 versus Windows 11. Windows 11 kind of soft launched this year in 2022. If you already work on Windows PCs, I'm sure you've seen notices that have been popping up saying, have you thought about switching to Windows 11 and about compatibility checkers? Today, we're just going to go into some of the differences between Windows 11 and Windows 10, when you should upgrade or if you should upgrade, and some of the other functional changes of the system as well. I wanted to do this as a full walkthrough, but unfortunately we had some issues getting a hold of a computer that was fully compatible with Windows 11, which is something else we're going to get into in a second. So today we're going to have to make do with some screenshots and walkthroughs, but I think it should be all right. Let's go ahead and get started after some announcements. First, some housekeeping. If you have a question, please go ahead and type it into the question box. I may answer it immediately. I may not. It just depends. If I think your question makes sense and is valuable and adds to what I'm talking about, I'll do it right then. If I don't get it, if I don't get to it initially, I will be following up, so don't worry. Additionally, if you have any questions that you just don't feel comfortable asking me during the presentation, or if you just like some advice or just some tech help in general, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My number is on screen along with my email address. And we'll be showing this at the end of the presentation too, so no need to jot it down. Additionally, never miss a webinar. We have all of our webinar resources recorded online at our webinar library. All of them are uploaded there, at least the past year or so should be. All of the full history is on our YouTube page as well. But if you want more information on upcoming webinars or maybe some other webinar series, I would go to www.crnstone.com/webinar-series. And lastly, there's also our Refer an Agent program. This is just for if you know an agent who might benefit from our services, feel free to submit them to us. We will pay you $250 when they place their first paid application with some other terms and conditions, but that's really it. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You submit your referral, we track and monitor them, and when they submit a referral within 6 months, then you earn $250, assuming the referral is approved. So without further ado, let's get into the tech. First off, why Windows 11? Why make any changes? When Microsoft announced Windows 10, they actually intended it to be their final operating system. It was just going to get updates as things changed, and hopefully that was going to be that. But now Windows 10 is kind of showing its age. Windows 10 came out back when I was actually starting and around college, so it's probably about time for an upgrade one way or another. There are different security threats that come up with operating systems all the time. That's why you get updates and patches and all those annoying notices from Microsoft as well. So with Windows 11, there are some security upgrades that were also made. Some cross-device work should also be more seamless. It has a lot more interaction with the cloud than Windows 10 did. So you are able to kind of sync your work across your devices a lot more easily. There are also some other quality of life improvements we're going to get into here in a bit, but also new hardware advances. And when hardware advances past a certain point, you kind of need to change your code in a more substantial way. And that's also part of why Windows 11 is a thing. This background that you're seeing is actually a kind of stock Windows 10 background. And I wanted to use this just to kind of show you how it looks. You can see we've got Internet Explorer, File Explorer, and the Microsoft Store down at the very bottom of the slide with the Windows icon on the far left, some general question buttons down here as well, kind of covering up the Cornerstone logo there in the bottom corner of the slide. But that's just, the search bar. And on the right, we have, battery indicator, the notification pane, all those things you're familiar with. Just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this, since we will be changing to Windows 11 here shortly. But first, a little bit of a more in-depth dive into what these changes entailed. Most users will kind of consider this a lot of just cosmetic change. If you don't kind of see the deeper tech that's kind of changed as well, it really just feels like a skin change, honestly, from Windows 10 going from 10 to 11. There's a different menu layout. It looks a little bit more similar to Macintosh, if you're familiar with those. They also brought back widgets, which were from Windows 7 and earlier as well. They also have additional security requirements at a hardware and software level. This is mostly something called TPM, but it's just other verification hardware. And additionally, Snap window improvements and other hardware improvements have been announced and are incoming. First off, when I said, what was it? Here, Snap Windows. That's actually a really cool quality of life improvement. And what basically happens is when you drag your screen, like a window, to the left or right of your screen in Windows 10, one of the big things they implemented was snapping, which is where you have like that kind of half screen showing of where your window is going to post. So you can just drag left and right of the side of the screen, and you can have like a document on one side and a web browser on the other. They made some significant changes to how that works, mainly working with mobile computing. So that'd be things like 2-in-1s and tablets. If you flip your screen and you were in like a computer mode on your 2-in-1 and then switch to a tablet, then those screens will actually rotate with the change as well. Snap window rotation is just one of the minor improvements, but another thing, if you're working on desktop, is the full screen icons have had some changes. If you actually click and hold a full screen, which is that window in window icon on the upper right-hand side of most windows, then you'll actually get a bunch of different Snap options as well. So you can choose, instead of going to full screen, to have it go directly to like a half screen view or maybe upper corner, just a bunch of different options that make it a lot easier for people working on multiple monitors to actually use the software. So that's a pretty cool Snap improvement. Additionally, the heightened security requirements are actually pretty good, but we'll be showing more of that on the next screen, which kind of posts all of the significant hardware changes here. Windows 11 is, here, let me circle it real quick. This screen right here, this first column is Windows 11, and this column right here, the second one, is Windows 10 changes. I have the kind of relevant ones highlighted in black, and that's just kind of showing you how much of a change this really is as far as your file size and what the depth of the operating system is really supposed to bring. Let's go ahead and erase that drawing. First off, the system requirements. The processor really hasn't had too many changes. It just specifies that you need to have a minimum of 2 cores on your CPU, which is kind of standard now anyway, on a 64-bit processor. It also mandates 1 gigahertz or faster processing speed, which almost anything on the market's going to have that now. You shouldn't be that concerned about it. The real big change that I noticed was the RAM requirements. The RAM requirements for Windows 10 is just that you have 1 gig of RAM for 32-bit or 2 gigs for 64. But with Windows 11, you're mandated to have a full 4 gigs of RAM. That also isn't a very heavy requirement. I personally normally don't recommend anyone get a computer with under 8 gigs. So that's also not a severe limiting requirement, but it's just something kind of to note. It's definitely taking up more of your system's resources. Additionally, the storage has changed. You used to only need 16 gigs for a 32-bit install of Windows 10 and 20 gigs for an install of the 64-bit version. But now that's recommended at 64 or more. And that's actually kind of a significant jump. That's a really large file for an operating system. So it's also going to be a lot more robust. So just kind of showing you how much they've also added to it. Additionally, it is mandated now that you have a secure boot option. What that just means is that your files on your hard drive are all encrypted and you can boot into a secure environment. That is not something that was required of Windows 10, but is required of Windows 11. It's also why some people are seeing some issues transitioning to Windows 11. In addition to TPM. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. TPMs are kind of like a hardware security fix, but what it literally is just a chip embedded in the motherboard or attached to the motherboard of your whole computer. It encrypts data that's moving around the system and also verifies that nothing's been changed in the system. So like if someone opened up your computer, removed the hard drive, plugged it into somewhere else, it checks for those kinds of changes. The other thing it can do is lock down your CPU, so you can't use your actual computer, your thinky bits, I guess, in a different motherboard if you have TPM turned on in certain cases. Additionally, if there are any like hardware changes that are pretty significant, the TPM module will just stop the computer from booting, give you errors, and basically prevent people from really messing around directly with the system. Assuming your hard drives are fully encrypted at that point, then it's a lot more secure to have this than not. And honestly, most motherboards do have this now, unless you're using consumer hardware for non-business application. You probably won't have a TPM module then, but I mean, most places have them now, and you probably won't see any issue from this if you're transferring over, excuse me, moving over from a PC from the last year or so. But any further back, you may have some issues with it. They also have some graphics card changes and system requirements from that regard, but those are pretty minimal. The only other thing that I thought was interesting to note that was a change from the requirement list was that you actually need internet access for your initial setup of Windows 11. You did not need it for Windows 10. They had a way to securely install it from their hard drive or the boot medium that you're using, but you do need internet access for Windows 11 setup, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah. So if you're setting up your new Windows 11 computer, just make sure you're doing it in a place that has internet access. That being said, is it time to switch if you're getting all those notices? My recommendation is to hold off for now. I have a link that I'm posting to the full specification list, along with, give me one moment to just bring this up. Here we are. As well as a app that can kind of check to see if your computer is ready for the upgrade. I'm putting links to those here in our chat, so you can copy those if you need them. But basically, this just has the full list of system requirements, and the first link I posted was the app that Microsoft uses that you can download, see if your device is ready to upgrade. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend doing that just now, though. And the reason is there's been some compatibility issues with third-party software, mainly software like I'm trying to think of a good example here. Things like Mozilla Firefox is an example of third-party software. It's software that isn't, native to what Microsoft installs or has on the device, but other developers use and, update. We actually recently switched over one of my friend's computers to Windows 11, and half of the applications that he had just stopped working. There weren't any drivers for them that were set up for Windows 11 yet, and it just had some issues. The other problem people have been having is transferring over their Internet Explorer data. And this actually ties into a disclaimer I wanted to say. If you use Internet Explorer to watch this or access anything on the web, that is going away. That's also part of why people have had issues transferring data from Internet Explorer 11. They're just moving their base installed system from Internet Explorer to Microsoft Edge, which is their new browser, and they're trying to encourage people to do that. So there have been some issues, and they just haven't fully supported the transfer and change to just keep Internet Explorer 11 moving. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that and has or is going to fully switch over to Edge if you're still using Internet Explorer. Anyway, there are other problems as well with older hardware. As I mentioned before on the spec screen, the hardware changes aren't very significant, and most of the older hardware that you see out there is technically compatible with Windows 11, but because of the updated security features and the added TPM modules, it's not going to actually boot, install, or do anything if you try to move a non-TPM certified computer over to Windows 11. So that's another reason why I say check your app and make sure you actually run the check on your computer to make sure it's compatible before you switch. Some other things you might want to do before you consider an upgrade to Windows 11 is back up your data. Make sure you have a full copy of everything. Things can go wrong on BIOS updates and other changes to operating systems. So it's a good idea to just have a separate backup of your data somewhere. Then you can just reinstall it once you have Windows 11 moved on. The automated system to kind of upgrade from Windows 10 to 11 does a pretty good job of maintaining all the data. I haven't heard of any real data deletion issues, aside from what I mentioned before with Internet Explorer history. But it's just always good practice to have a backup of your data anyway. Also, check and see if any of your favorite applications have had known issues with Windows 11. I just Google search typically if I'm trying to use a piece of software like Adobe, for instance. I just search Adobe Acrobat, Windows 11 compatibility issues, and that should take care of it from there. If you have any questions about any specific software, though, I'm happy to look into it for you. Just send me an email. And that brings us to Windows 11. This is actually the screen or default screen of Windows 11. As you can see, it looks pretty bare. There's just that bar down at the bottom, and your Windows icon is missing from the left-hand side. That's because it's kind of moved into the center. When I said earlier that things have changed to make it similar to Mac, that's what I was referring to. A lot of the visual appeal of Windows 11 looks very similar to iOS or, well, not iOS, sorry. I mean Mac OS or any other Apple kind of software. It has the icon in the left-hand side of the toolbar. I'm just gonna highlight it here. Right here, that is your new home menu. They also have a search option right next to it, and this new tile button, which is actually pretty neat, as well as another button here that I'm going to talk about in a moment as well. They still have their notification pane in the same spot. You don't have to worry about that. All of your apps should still be in the same place. If you've got anything installed on your computer, you should still see those icons once you transition. It's just, bare bones, and it's made to look a little more minimalist. Let me switch back over. Here we go. These are just some of the icon and menu changes, though, that I wanted to point out before we get into the most significant user change, in my opinion, which is the tiles and the widgets. First off, if you hit the home button, which is that icon on the most left-hand side of the highlighted section here, the circle in red, that actually brings up the menu on the far left, which is this one. This is the new home menu. And when you compare it to the Windows 11 home menu or a Windows 10 home menu, which if I hit home now, you should be able to see, it's kind of a significant change. It looks very different, but it's not really functionally all that different. In Windows 10, if you just start typing from this screen, you start searching. Same thing in Windows 11. If you are looking for a specific program or you have like a pinned program, that would be displayed in the tiles, which is this section on the right-hand side. In Windows 11, that section is right up here, your pinned applications. In addition, it also has recently accessed applications down here and the search bar right up top. So it's just a little bit more intuitive for users. Additionally, some of the other changes is that they actually added a direct search bar right here. And actually, if you start typing into the search bar on that home menu, then you actually just start pulling up a search from that search bar. It'll search through your whole system as well as the internet, same as with Windows 10. For instance, if I just start searching YOUTU, it's going to start looking for YouTube folders on my PC. And if I start TUBE, you can just see all of the computer data here that is locally stored. One of the main differences, though, is that it'll also start searching for other applications. That would be anything from the Microsoft Store or Amazon Store that are synced. And one of the other changes they made is that you can actually run Android applications on your Windows 10 PC through the Amazon store. I don't know a lot of the detail about how that's going to be fully implemented. I know that they've started working on it and getting it fully implemented for Windows 11, but your mileage may vary with different applications. So you might want to just try them around and see what you can do. They're really just trying to make it more portable, and they're trying to make the system easier for mobile users. So if you have a Windows phone, a Windows tablet, and a Windows computer, you're going to be able to just move your applications all across the devices, work more seamlessly with them. Additionally, there are some menu changes if you right-click on the home screen that I also wanted to highlight. Specifically, the View tab right up here has changed, and it's very accessible. If you think the icons on your computer are too small, or if you need to rearrange the icons, I like to always sort mine either alphabetically, by app, or just organize things. They have some automatic sorting options here under View. If you just hover over the View option after right-clicking on your desktop, you should pull up this submenu, giving you access to the automatic alignment of your icons to grids, which you can turn off from here as well. You can also show desktop icons or hide them from this menu as well, and you can change the size. You can also open up a Windows command terminal or get to additional personalization and display change options just by right-clicking as well. And you can show some deeper options into customization if you click Show More Options. One folder or subsection here that I also thought I should break out is the New section. And I thought this was a really great change, especially for Office users. If you just right-click on your desktop now, you can select New and then choose a document or a folder or a shortcut or whatever is new that you want to add to your desktop directly. So you can just create new documents directly to the desktop, which, well, from a computer science perspective, I'm not sure how I feel about it. From a user perspective, that's going to be wonderful. If you like to organize all of your documents on your desktop before you move them to a more secure permanent location, that makes it way easier to open up new things and to get new things going. Some other changes were these two panes down here. The first one on the left, and I'm gonna erase my drawings real quick. Thank you. Okay, these two changes and icons are completely new for Windows users. And this one just shows open windows. It's how you change between desktops. And yes, I did say desktops. Windows 11 is going to have the ability to have multiple virtual desktops. And what that means is instead of just having your one desktop you're working on, you can have 2, 3, 4. It's really just adding multiple tabs to your active device. If you use Android software or anything really like a phone now, it's kind of the same thing. You know how you scroll between your screens to sort of pick out what apps you're opening? That's literally what this is. If you click on that icon, you can display all of your open windows as well as all of your open desktops, and you can seamlessly switch from one to another to another to another. This kind of makes it a little easier if you're trying to work on 2 screens, even if you don't have 2 screens to display, because you can just jump back and forth between app 1, app 2, app 3, app 4, and app 5. Another shortcut for that is Alt and Tab if you just need to filter through your options really quickly. But for people who like to physically click on the screen to interact, that button is going to be a big friend for you. In addition to this button right here, which is the one right next to it, that opens up the Widgets tab. And if you haven't been following Windows much, or if you never used Windows 11 or Windows 8, or not Windows 11, I'm sorry, Windows 7 or Windows 8, you probably aren't sure what those are directly. But Android phones use them all the time now. It's something that iOS users have as well, and it's something that everyone's familiar with that Microsoft finally decided to bring back. And here I'm just going to advance to the next slide. There we are. It opens up a tab that looks something like what you're seeing here on the left. That is the Widgets tab. You can get to it by clicking on that button that I highlighted. You can also get to it by, if you're using a 2-in-1, swiping to the side that you have your taskbar pinned to, and it'll just open up this widget toolbar. And widgets are really just kind of like small programs that display information on your screen directly and update automatically. So it's literally just a little icon that gives you access to quick information. A lot of small ones are things like they watch like Dow indexes, you have the weather, you also have clocks or other sort of general information displayed there as well. But one thing that people really like to do is include news feeds. So you can have feeds from like the Associated Press, the Washington Post, Fox News, Guardian, whoever you decide to get your news from. If they have a small widget, you can pin it here and you just have quick access to it. You don't have to open up any, internet browser or home screen or any of that. You don't have to add it to your automatic homepage. You can just have an automatic news feed right here. So that's just one of the things that I like to use them for, but there are a whole host of other options. There are money transfer apps now that just have widgets as well. So if you just need to do a quick transfer, you can type in the transfer, hit boom, and you're done. So this is something that's kind of getting brought back that I think is a really good ad. Currently, all of the displays I've seen show everything limited to that taskbar for widgets. But previously in versions of Windows 7 and Windows 8, you were actually able to just pin those to your desktop as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. They might have a feature that allows you to just pin those to a whole nother desktop. So you can just swipe between your desktops if you're trying to see information. But like I said, that's more of a down the line change, and it's something that might be implemented, not something they necessarily have right now. Another minor change that I wanted to talk about was that they are trying to gear things more toward multiple device work. And that's just because things are becoming more mobile in computing. That means that you'd be able to say, sign a document on your, your tablet and then be able to pull it up later on your computer without doing any data transfer or anything, carrying around a USB. And that's just trying to integrate things more into the cloud. I think they're trying to work more with Dropbox as well to have more tight integration of that kind of feature. But that's pretty much all the big changes that you'd want to really know about with Windows 11 and Windows 10. Like I said, if you're running newer hardware, you really shouldn't have many problems. It's just older hardware upgrading that might cause issues. I also have some sources on this presentation that I wanted to cite, including the widgets in Windows 11 one and the specs and system requirements. That really definitely helped. Also, Trend Micro is just where I go for any Windows news, and I'd highly recommend following them for any other updates. Like I said, if you'd like to connect with me or have any other specific questions about Windows 10 versus Windows 11, things are really pretty early on, but feel free to message me directly using my email address or by phone at the phone number displayed on your screen. That's 513-487-5390, and my email address is tlevine@crnstone.com. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me that way or post them now. One of the other things you can do is go to our Refer an Agent part of our website if you want more information about that. I have the link here that I'm putting in chat. Or if you wanted to watch a recording of this webinar later, or maybe follow up on some of our other webinars as well, you can do that here. I put the link in the chat as well. This is the webinar series page that I mentioned at the start of our presentation, and it has some of our more long-standing recorded webinars as well. If you scroll down the page, you can sort between all of our different offerings of webinars. We have our individual corner, group corner, build your brand, and Tech Tuesday here as well. You even have our last one uploaded, which was Outlook and Word here too. So that way you can access that information if you see fit. I'm Tom Levine, I've been your host, and I hope you have a great day.